Setting compounds come in dry form, so you just add water and mix up what you need. The bag on the left is the original type of a setting compound. It's actually a very hard compound that's very difficult to sand, not something I use very often. The compound on the right is much easier to sand and much more usable. These happen to be USG brands, but all the drywall brands do make their own version of a setting compound. Here you can see some setting compound, and there's actually a number 45 written on these bags. The 45 indicates roughly how long it's going to take for this compound to set up. So the working time with this particular 45-minute compound is less than 45 minutes. Of course, it comes in a variety. You can get 20-minute, 90-minute, 360s, quite a variety based on what your needs may be. All right, I'm going to start on some repairs here, and what I'm going to be using is a variety of tools and variety of products. So I'll start out by explaining what compounds I'm going to be using. Right here I have kind of an old bag of a setting compound, Easy Sand 20. This is a very fast setting. The 20 usually indicates approximately how long it's going to take to set up. A setting compound sets up chemically. In other words, I don't have to wait for it to air dry before I can put another coat on it. So that's why I like to use this for my repairs for the initial coat. Then it helps move the job along a lot quicker. And for my finished coats, I'm going to use a lightweight compound. This is the USG brand Plus 3, which is a real nice compound. It dries very quickly and it's very easy to sand as well. I'm just mixing up some setting compound for this job today, and I'm just thinking about how some people might be a little confused by what a setting compound is and what it does. The setting compound sets up chemically. So this is an Easy Sand 45. So pretty much about 45 minutes after I mix it up, it is set up, and then you can put another coat of joint compound over it. One of the cautions that I like to tell people about is when you're mixing the compound, and you've already mixed one batch, like in this pail here, I've already mixed a batch, and I'm cleaning the pail. If you don't thoroughly clean the pail of the residue left from the setting compound that you just used, it will affect the setting time. It will shorten the setting time. So having a clean bucket and some clean water is really important. So I'm getting ready to do my pre-filling in little patches before I actually start taping. I'm mixing up some Easy Sand 45 in my pan. This is what I always do, especially on days that I'm going to start taping right away. If I wasn't going to start taping today, I could use a regular all-purpose compound for my pre-filling because it would have time to dry. But this sets up chemically, so I'll be able to coat right over it right away. I've already added some water to my pan. You always do that first. Now I'm going to sprinkle in some of the setting compound. The thing about the setting compound is you always add the water first and then mix it in. Get a little thin at first and then keep adding to it. But when you mix this, once it sets up, you can't remix it, you can't reuse it. So I always try to mix close to the exact amount that I need right off the bat. In this case, I'm going to be doing a pretty good fill with this, so I don't want it too thin. I think I got lucky there. I added the right amount of water as well as the right amount of the setting compound, because that's a pretty good mix. All right, over here on this repair, there's a little bit of a gap. I'm just going to pre-fill it a little bit. Once again, I'm using the setting compound that is mixed a little bit thick. Just pre-filling that gap. And over along the edge of this tub, I have a wider gap. I'm going to fill that as well. pushing that compound in with my knife. And then I'm going to use this fiberglass mesh tape over the top of that crack, or the seam I should say. That's just going to be centered. Just push it right into the corner. And I take my taping knife and I just hold it right in there and I pull on the tape, and that will just cut it right off. So now I'm just going to take a little bit more of the setting compound and just conceal it a little bit, just to start blending it in. Don't forget, baseboard is going to cover this later. So all I'm really having to do is, the upper part of this is going to be blended into the wall. Along the bottom, we're not worried because the baseboard is going to hide that later. Just smoothing it out, pretty thin layer. What I always like to do is keep this outer edge feathered in. See, I'm trying to blend this compound into this painted surface, so that edge right there, I've got nice and tight, blended in, so there's not a ridge. And then I also have only a thin amount of compound over the tape itself. And that's all I really need to do for right now. I'm just going to let this set for maybe 20 minutes and put the finished coat over the top of it. What I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to fill all this with joint compound. I'm not going to try to put a piece of drywall or anything in there. Okay, so what I have here is a setting compound that I did mix up pretty thick. And the reason I want it thick is I'm going to push it into that gap. I'm going to totally fill it with this setting compound. It's quite dry, as you can see. So I'm just going to take it on my taping knife and just push it into the gap. Now that doesn't look too bad already, but I do want to put some tape on there because otherwise that'll crack and show through later. So I don't need to go with a real heavy mesh tape or even a paper tape. What I'm going to use here is the Fiberfuse tape that is the fiberglass matte. So that I'm just going to put over the top of the cracked area, push it right in. And it cuts very easily, so I'm just going to cut it with my utility knife, or my taping knife, I should say. And I'm going to just take some of that same compound and just coat right over the top of it right away. Once this sets up, which will be in just a few minutes, I'm going to coat this with some regular, the lightweight compound, just to blend it in a little bit better. All right, about 20 minutes has gone by, and the setting compound that we use for our first coat here has had plenty of time to set up. Keep in mind, it sets up chemically, so it's still wet, but we can put another coat over it, as opposed to the drying type compound that I'm going to be using on this coat. That we have to wait for it to dry before we can put more coats on it. So let's take a look at this spot over here. This was quite a thick, it's probably 3/4 of an inch thick, and you can see it's still wet, but it's definitely set up. Here's the damaged area. I actually just cut this out. It was a big bubble, and I just cut it out. Now I know it looks really bad, but it's not as bad as it looks. I'm just going to pre-fill that and put a little mesh tape over it, and it will be fine. Here's this damaged area where I had to remove pretty large pieces of drywall. Yeah, I've got it all pre-filled. I got the mesh tape over it. It looks a lot better. It's gonna be real easy to hide. Nice, easy fix. Yesterday I hung this basement. There's about 1,100 square feet of drywall. I was lucky I was able to get 12 footers in here, which helped reduce the amount of butted seams. But what I've done today is I've actually put mesh tape on all my seams, and then I've embedded that tape with a setting compound. Even my inside corners, I use paper tape, but I embed it in the setting compound. By having it embedded in a setting compound, I know I'll be able to come in here tomorrow and put another coat of compound over this. So just something to speed up the process today, because I'm hand taping, and using a mesh tape is a very quick way of taping, because I really didn't feel like getting out my more advanced type taping tools. So this is just a little trick I use to move things along better. The outside corners, I'm still going to coat with an all-purpose heavyweight compound, because I like the way that the all-purpose heavyweight adheres to the vinyl corner beads. Hey, thanks for watching. If you want some more information on working with setting compounds, check out my website, thisisdrywall.com. But click on this link and it will take you directly to the article. Thanks again.